Welcome back. Today we're going to be going over section 1.3.3, the conditions that enabled early civilization. Several factors converge to make rapid social development possible. Here are 5 major factors among them. Number 1, the Fertile Crescent. Mesopotamia's river systems, the Tigris and Euphrates, which created an environmental ideal for agriculture, trade, and settlement density, a natural accelerator of human settlement. The region stretching from the Persian Gulf through Mesopotamia and into the Levant provided the earliest post-flood populations with an unparalleled ecological advantage. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers flooded seasonally, depositing nutrient-rich silt that renewed the soil without requiring advanced agricultural techniques. This meant reliable crop yields, even with simple tools, dense settlement patterns, since food surpluses supported larger populations. Trade corridors formed naturally along riverbanks, enabling exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies. Early urbanization, as predictable harvests freed some individuals from subsistence labor, allowing specialization. The geography itself acted as a multiplier. Once a few settlements stabilized, they quickly grew into interconnected city-states, forming the backbone of early civilization. Number 2, climatic stability. The immediate post-flood climate allowed for sustained planting cycles and the emergence of irrigation-based food production. A window of opportunity after the flood. The immediate centuries after the flood appear, both in ancient memory and climatological models, to have been unusually stable. This stability created predictable planting seasons, allowing communities to plan long-term. The rise of irrigation, since consistent river behavior made canal systems feasible. Expansion of domesticated crops, which require multi-generational consistency to refine. Population growth, because stable food sources reduce famine cycles. In other words, the climate provided a rare period where humanity could experiment, innovate, and expand without constant environmental disruption. Civilization requires continuity, and this era provided it. Number 3, early technological retention. Humanity retained some pre-flood knowledge, especially in metallurgy, masonry, agriculture, and astronomy, likely passed down orally through Noah's family. The echo of pre-flood knowledge. Even though the flood reset the world's population, it did not erase all memory. Noah's family carried fragments of pre-flood expertise, skills that would have taken millennia to rediscover from scratch. These included metallurgy, knowledge of smelting, alloying, and tool-making, masonry and construction, which is stone shaping, structural principles, and waterproofing, agriculture and animal genetics, crop selection, animal husbandry, food storage, etc. Astronomical observation, which later became the backbone of calendars, navigation, and religious systems. This is an important piece of information. This retained knowledge acted like a seed library for civilization. Even partial recollection of advanced techniques gave early societies a head start, enabling rapid development compared to what would normally occur after a global population decrease. Number 4, centralized resource availability. Clay, water, bitumen, and rich soil enabled construction, writing, and brick production, materials that invite innovation. Mesopotamia was uniquely stocked with the raw materials needed for early technological and cultural breakthroughs. Clay for pottery, tablets, and bricks. Bitumen for waterproofing, mortar, and construction. Abundant water for irrigation, transport, and sustaining large populations. Rich alluvial soil for agriculture and settlement stability. These resources allowed for the invention of writing, since the clay tablets were cheap, durable, and abundant, large-scale architecture, including ziggurats and fortified cities, standardized brick production, enabling uniform building practices, record-keeping, which is essential for taxation, trade, and governance. Civilization requires not only ideas but materials. Mesopotamia had both. Number 5, spiritual compromise and ideological drift. Separated from Adan, or Eden, humanity began developing religious interpretations based on fragmented memory and inherited tradition, opening the door for deception. These factors collectively enabled the formation of urbanized settlements, complex trade systems, and eventually the First Empire. The birth of religion and empire. Separated from Adan and lacking direct revelation, early humanity relied on inherited stories, fragmented memories, and oral tradition. Over generations, this produced speculative cosmologies, as people tried to explain the world around them. mythologized memories of pre-flood beings, events, and judgments. Localized cults, each interpreting ancient truths through their own lens. The rise of priestly classes, who mediated between people and their evolving religious systems. This ideological drift created fertile ground for religious syncretism, blending memory with imagination. Political manipulation, as rulers used divine narratives to legitimize authority. The formation of centralized power, culminating in the First Empire, Babel. This information here is critical for understanding later sections. Spiritual hunger, when disconnected from the original truth, becomes a powerful social force. It shapes culture, law, identity, and ultimately, empire. Collective impact, the birth of urban civilization. When these 5 factors converged, they produced a unique historical moment. Surplus food supported specialists. Specialists created technology. Technology enabled cities. Cities required administration. Administration required writing. Writing enabled empire. This chain reaction transformed scattered post-flood families into the world's first urban societies, culminating in the rise of Babel, a political, technological, and ideological center that shaped the trajectory of all later civilizations. The stage was set for Nimrud. By the time several generations had passed after Noah, the conditions were ripe for political unification, ideological centralization, technological innovation, religious institutionalization. Humanity had multiplied enough to support large-scale construction projects. Regional authority structures began to emerge. Skilled labor became specialized, and the desire for unified security and identity increased. But above all, there arose a uniquely ambitious figure, one who would capitalize on humanity's growing population, early infrastructure, and spiritual vulnerability. His name was Nimrud, and through him the first world system would rise. That transition marks the beginning of section 1.3.4, where the emergence of kingship and empire is fully established. This concludes section 1.3.3, the conditions that enabled early civilization, and continues into section 1.3.4, the first king of the ARATS and the birth of empires.